If we could talk about gear for a second, since you got the this is your signature guitar, semi new. Did you have input in the design of this at all?
Well, the original shape, obviously, as we all know here, is based on the Gibson Flying V, which was modified by Jackson for their King V, which I left and went to ESP, and then I went over to Dean. And Dean, this guitar is more similar to the Jackson, I think, than the ESP was, because the president for ESP was apprehensive to getting too close in similarity to the Jackson body lines, because he didn't want a lawsuit. And face it, we're in a country that we're sue happy. We're litigious people, and you know, he didn't want to do it, and after a while I just figured, you know what, this isn't what I like. I mean, it may be off by, you know, a half inch to you, and that may not be a lot, but I'll tell you, if you're running through a doorway at 10 miles an hour and you miss the doorway by a half inch, you can feel it, you know. So, I mean, if the guitar's off by a half inch, you know, I'm going to feel it, and I certainly want to play what I like playing. And when we started developing this guitar, I had immediately thought of Dean, and I thought of the headstock, and I thought, you know, I'm not a three on tuning peg kind of guy. I've always been 6 in a row. When I played BC Rich in the very beginning of my career with Metallica, I'd had 3 on each side, and I found it really difficult for me to remember switching sides, you know, which way you turn it, and you know, there's only so much time you have live. You know, I live for the stage. I'm not talking to you about being in the studio where you can take your time. I'm talking about when you're on stage and you've got a nanosecond to get your guitar back in tune. I had said that, you know, I was concerned about the headstock, and as you can see, so were they. So I've got my 6 in a row, and we wanted to make a change to the body so that it would be different enough so that they would feel good about it and they wouldn't feel like they were infringing on Gibson or Jackson. So they did this little notch right here, and I'm thinking, man, if you can, good idea, thank you. I can say thanks. Now, if you see right here, there's a little notch right here, and that's all well and good as long as you're not hitting it at 80 miles an hour with frozen hands in England, you know. And I'll tell you, the first time I did that, I really hurt my hand. And so if it was me, I would probably, once you buy this thing, I would play with a mitten on, or I'm just kidding. And the guitar itself, too, is a lot heavier than the previous guitar that I was playing, so it sustains a lot better, and I think it's got a little bit more meat on it. And when we were out doing the Heaven and Hell tour last year with the lineup from Black Sabbath, one of the things that I'd noticed was that I was actually able to hear my solos better. And, you know, you kind of like, yeah, I'm good, you know, this kind of thing. You're telling yourself you're better than you really are. But I was listening, and I was like, you know what? I can really hear some areas in my playing that I was having some problems with, and it had cleaned itself up. And it wasn't necessarily something that it, you know, it was like rocket science where you had to figure out, you know, what was the primary thing that got corrected. Well, the thing that got corrected was me. It was playing the guitar, the confidence in the guitar, the way that it felt, the way that it felt in my hands, the way that I held it. And then I was up in here, and I think I was doing a solo for, what song is that? It doesn't matter, there's so many of them. It was one of the songs off of one of the last records, because I remember that it was just recently that I started to notice that I had played it right. But anyways, the guitar for me too, when you get up into the higher frets here, I use the small fret wire, because the pads on the tips of my finger, they're not as big as, you know, some of those dudes that look like they're a pack of hot dogs for fingers. But when my skin's pretty soft, so when my fingers get flattened out, they take up a lot of space here on the top. And when I'm getting it on, like with some of the songs where, you know, you'll be pulling off or something, like in that's something that you do for Hangar 18. Now, it's hard to do sitting down, and it's hard to do without a band blasting behind me. But, you know, it's so stretched out, and I'm playing something that I'm not used to playing. For me, having the small fret wire makes the guitar a lot easier to play. It has signature active pickups in it that are made by Seymour Duncan and Tone Pro knobs and a stop tailpiece. That's basically all that there's to say about this guitar. There's different models, so that if you're a beginner guitar player, there's an entry-level guitar, there's a semi-pro model, and then there's the pro model like this, which is totally different, as my friend here found out today, right?